things that plays a role in our stability is pelvic control. So today we're going to talk about pelvic control and how that relates to the other things that we've been talking about so far with core member. So right now I have Kyle here, and he's going to demonstrate some pelvic awareness and pelvic control exercises. One of the easiest ways to start learning pelvic control is to do it lying down. The reason doing it lying down is easier is because you don't have to worry about having stability anywhere else throughout the chain. We can just focus in on what the pelvis is doing. So I'm going to go ahead and have Kyle demonstrate some anterior and posterior pelvic tilting so you can see how the pelvis should move, and then also learn how to gain awareness and control of your pelvic position. So Kyle's going to go ahead and go into an anterior pelvic tilt. So as we anteriorly tilt, you're going to create an arch in the lower back. Then he's going to come into a posterior pelvic tilt. As you posterior pelvic tilt, you're going to engage the lower abdominals, and you're going to flatten the back into the ground. So go ahead and just go through a couple more of those in this position here. So as you are able to do it easy lying down, then it's important to progress this into other positions because we need to have pelvic control and pelvic awareness in multiple positions. As we get into other positions, it becomes more challenging because now Kyle is also having to create stability through his arms and through his hips. So he can't just focus on one thing. He's got to also make sure that he can focus on multiple areas at once. So let's go ahead and in this position also demonstrate an anterior tilt. So he's arching his back, and then a posterior tilt, again engaging his core and rounding under. Let's go a couple more times there. So it's very important to make sure that we practice this control in multiple different positions.
Right.
So now we're going to demonstrate a couple different lifting movements that keeping a nice pelvic position is going to help you keep a neutral spine. And this is one of the first things that we go over with clients is even when you're doing a squat movement, you need to know how to do a proper hip hinge. We're going to put a palm on the stomach and the back of your hand on your back. Perfect. And from here, you're going to feel where your pelvic position is using the skills that Cassie taught with Kyle previously. So finding that nice pelvic position. And from here, you're going to allow your butt to travel back. So as though there was a wall behind you and you're pushing the wall. So allowing your whole upper torso to come with you. So a hip hinge, learning that proper hip hinge is one of the most important things to any life or lifting movement that you're doing. Now we're going to talk about barbell back squats. Cassie's going to demonstrate with a high bar position. As Cassie demonstrates, lining up the hips with the shoulders, thinking about pulling the pelvis to rib cage or pubic bone to diaphragm. There's several different cues to give, including the practices that Cassie showed with Kyle earlier. Nice neutral spine, everything is lined up, and you're in a much more powerful and safe position. So as you initiate the movement of your squat, you're going to initiate with a hip hinge, pushing your butt back and coming on back down into your squat. Versus you don't want to initiate with a hip swivel, or technically speaking, an anterior pelvic tilt, where your butt goes before everything else. So we're making sure, one more time, show them correctly to initiate with a hip hinge as we discussed earlier. Perfect. Awesome. And that's it for pelvic tilts.